Are you looking to take your personal finances to the next level? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not, with your host, Joseph Sangle.
Well, welcome to the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. My name is Joe Sangle, and we like to be here every single Monday with some right now relevant information to help you in your money journey, because money is a journey, not just a moment. Today, I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Megan Hibbard. How are you fired up on this Monday?
Fired up. Happy Monday.
Yes.
It is May 17th.
It is May 17th, episode number
150.
Woo! We made it to 150. We celebrate around here, and 150 episodes, that means 150 times we have sat down here with some thoughts, and a lot of it is some thoughts that we put together before the podcast because we want it to be great for people. And can you believe 150 episodes? We started when? January of 2018. 18.
Yeah.
January
we did every other week.
We did every other week. And then we went to every week the following year in 2019, and we haven't missed a week since. Every Monday, coming to you with right now relevant information. Tell everybody what we're going to talk about. Speaking of right now relevant information, what are we going to talk about in this episode?
Yes. So in this episode, we're going to talk about how to have the estate planning conversation. So our question is, in a recent conversation with my parents, both are in their 70s, I learned that they do not have a will. Yikes.
Uh-oh.
So I want to have a conversation with them, but it feels awkward bringing up the subject. Any suggestions?
Well, this is an awkward conversation, no doubt about it. We're going to try to help people with that. Hope it's going to be good. Before we dive into that, let's have that favorite section of the podcast. You know what that is. Let's go.
Now it's time to get caught up with our current money events.
The Monday Money Tip Podcast is sponsored by the Fully Funded Life Membership Program. The Fully Funded Life Membership Program provides all you need to begin winning with money and live a fully funded life. Fully Funded Life includes 4 key components: courses, challenges, coaching, and community. Courses provide financial education. Challenges help you make massive progress in a specific money skill. Coaching is provided by the Fully Funded Life Certified Coaches through open office hours held multiple times each month. All of the courses, challenges, and coaching results in an outstanding community that help equip, motivate, and encourage you to take your next financial steps toward your fully funded life. Fully Funded Life. Courses, challenges, coaching, community. All that's missing is you. Learn more and receive a special offer for Monday Money Tip listeners today at fullyfunded.life/MMT. That's www.fullyfunded.life/MMT.
Well, in today's current money events section, we're going to talk about the housing bubble.
Yep. It is a bubble.
Make your best bubble sound. There is a bubble. Now, my fellow co-host here, Megan Hibbard, Megan and Jordan, they got in on the early side of this bubble. So tell everybody, remind everybody, if they're just listening in for the first time, kind of tell them kind of the timing that you made a decision to kind of buy, sell.
Yes. So my husband, he's just one of those people that just is always thinking of like, what's next? So like, what are we going to do? What's the next trip we're going to go on? What's the next thing we're going to do? The next car we're going to buy? He's like a great planner, which is an awesome quality. I love it. So he had been looking at houses for a while, and I just wasn't there yet. I loved the house that we were in. It was great. It was
first house.
It was the first house.
House you moved into when you're married.
We got married in. Like,
brought the baby home to.
Logan home.
Brought your baby puppy home to.
Yes. So I was not ready to move. I was very nostalgic about it. But he ended up showing me one house, and I really loved it. It turned out not to be the house that we bought, but it got me in that like, okay, we should do this. We can buy this. Here's what it could be. Here's where we could put this. Here's where we could put that. So then within like a week, we have a real estate agent. We started looking at houses. We had looked at like 8 houses, and we were actually about to put an offer on another house when this one, if you ever bought or sold a house, you know they send you emails like when houses come available. Because they go off the market like crazy fast. So one came available, and I was like, the instant I saw it, I was like, this is it. This is our house. I know it. Which is funny because if you ask Jordan, every house we had been in, I was like, nope.
No.
not it.
Yeah.
Not it. Not it. And I could tell he's starting to get a little frustrated because he's like, this one's great. I'm like, no, it's not. So I called a real estate agent like minutes. And I'm like, I have to look at this house. So we got in the first appointment that day, saw it, made an offer that day. They had like 6 to 8 other showings. And they ended up accepting our offer so the day their house went on the market. I don't even think it had been on the market like an hour when we saw it and put an offer on it. So in turn, we had to sell our house quickly. So we had the weekend to get our house ready to sell. So we like called parents and in-laws and that kind of stuff. Everyone's coming to help us get their house ready, put our house on the market, and it sold that day as well. So it was just a super fast process of like.
And when was this?
This was in June. So in June of 2020. And we ended up closing in August.
Okay.
Mid-August of 2020.
Did you have any contingencies when you made the offer, like contingent upon the sale of your home?
Yes. So it was contingent. So that was like the kind of like
was it a full
unnerving
price
thing
offer?
For our that put on. They actually went above asking.
Okay.
Which appraisal messed all that up, but not a fan of appraisals.
So here's what I would just tell you. Megan and Jordan made a decision. It happened very fast.
Yeah.
I remember you brought it up and you're like, oh, by the way, we bought a house. And I'm like, I didn't even know you were looking for a house.
We weren't really.
Right? So what I would say is you were able to put contingencies contingent upon selling your house, that sort of thing. Well, some signs that you're in a housing bubble. Mm-hmm. Let's go through some signs. Some signs of a housing bubble is everybody's paying more than asking price.
Which is what's currently happening.
Another sign is that there are multiple offers over asking price.
Yes.
But when it becomes a true housing bubble is when there's no contingency that it has to appraise for what you bought it for, or you can't say contingent upon normal things like selling my other house.
Yes.
Or contingent upon, passing a home inspection.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden all that stuff is waived, when people are paying $10, $20, $30, $40, even $50,000 over asking price, and there are no contingencies allowed, you can't even get an inspection.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that is the definition of a housing bubble.
Yeah. So a house down the street from us, it's a little bit bigger than ours, but not by much, sold for about $30,000 more than we bought our house for. With the same thing, there was nothing in it. It was just, we want this house. We're willing to pay for it. We don't need it. None of that's going to happen. This is it.
So
Crazy.
when you are in that phase and you really want a house, I call that gotta have a house fever.
They had to have the house.
Everybody has developed a bad case of gotta have a house fever.
Yeah.
And it's being driven by multiple things. It's being driven by the fact that people who are millennials were living downtown in the little 450 square foot apartment, and now they've not been allowed to leave for 18 months. And they're like, I've had enough of that. Get me out of here.
Yeah.
Number two, it is because money is so cheap. Money is being lent at such cheap prices, and tons of people have been given money through the CARES Act cash, what we call the Trump's parting gift, the Biden's bucks. People have record amounts of cash on hand, and so they're buying stuff. They're buying houses, and interest rates, people don't really care what they're paying for the house. They care what the monthly payment is. Well, lower interest rates mean they can afford more value of home. And then you put on top of that the fact that supply chains were greatly interrupted by the pandemic.
Yeah.
So right now it takes 14 weeks on minimum to get windows.
Yeah.
That a piece of OSB, which, do you know what OSB stands for?
It's the type
Oriented strand board. So they take chipboard, sweet gum wood, junk wood, and they make it oriented strand board, very good plywood. A sheet of 7/16 plywood, OSB, cost me less than $8 before the pandemic. Today, I looked up the price. It's $37.45 a sheet.
I believe
An extra $30.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And so that is the definition of a housing bubble. And I know people have a lot of thoughts on this, but I am here to tell you, I don't know that the housing market will collapse. I don't believe it will. But I do believe that it's going to moderate. And if you're selling a house, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yep.
You're going to make a lot of money, so to speak, but you're going to plow it
for
right
it.
back into the next house.
Yeah.
And I would just really encourage people to be very cautious. And if they're not allowing contingencies, don't do it. I know you're like, well, I'll never get the house. Well, then be patient and wait.
Yeah.
Because eventually, we learn this in basic economics, supply will catch up with demand. And they are building like crazy right now.
So fast.
All over this nation.
Yeah.
And so I would just say, this is Joe Sangle, Megan Hibbard, with your friendly alert in the current money events section that there is a red alert. It's code red on a housing bubble. The ideal scenario is if you are selling and you're moving to an area with a much lower cost of living. That's your ideal scenario. The most ideal scenario is if you're selling a second home and you're not needing another home.
Yeah.
But if you are selling, good for you. You know, double the price, square it, put a 10th power to it, and that might be close to the price people are willing to pay. But immediately go buy another house. Or if you can wait in any way by going and moving in with somebody for a little while, you might be able to get a better deal down the road here. I anticipate this moderating sometime in the next 8 to 12 months. That's Joe Sangle's prognostications. We'll listen to the podcast again in 8 to 12 months and see if I'm right.
Yep.
But I just wanted to say, red alert, housing bubble. Anybody who's saying anything to the contrary is just not telling the truth.
Yeah.
You didn't make your bubble sound again.
Sorry.
She's
feel
just
like
not going to do that.
The moment has passed. All right. Our success story this week is from Faith. And she said, I wanted to let you know that after taking your course, it really helped me not only improve the way I budget my monthly bills, but I never budgeted my cash that I took out for the week. Using the envelope method was great. I not only started building up my savings and emergency fund, but also saving for car repairs. I checked out different insurance companies, made a lot of adjustments, which helped me so much. Thank you for all of your hard work in putting these courses together and making the cost reasonable for the families to take. I took the course at North Star Church in Columbia, South Carolina in 2019, but what I wanted to tell you most is since November 2020, with God's help and the tips I got from your course, I was able to pay off a $10,000 loan in 5 months, get fired up about that,
Yep.
and still put money into my savings account, pay cash for car repairs and house maintenance. So keep up the good work. God is amazing. The only debt I have is my mortgage. I know and I trust God that He will help me pay it off quicker too. I am blessed. May God continue to bless you and your family and your businesses.
Well, that's awesome.
Thank you,
Faith. Faith. Thank you so much for sending us your story. There's so many things that stand out to me. I mean, I always like to share success stories with our listeners because it's very encouraging to them, but also because I know that it is important for people to learn from the story.
Right.
And there's certain things that stand out to us. And maybe I'll defer to you here in a second on what stands out to you. But one of the things that stands out to me is just a simple little method called the envelope method, that she had never budgeted her cash that she took out for the week. And that cash envelopes allowed her to do that. That's a simple little tool to help people stick to their plan.
Yeah.
And I know the debit card is using your cash money, but it's hard to keep track of how much you've spent in each category, like you can when you're spending cash out of each envelope. So what's something that stands out to you?
Yeah, I think, she was able to use the cash envelope method, which I think was huge. But then she started building up my savings and emergency fund, but also saving for car repairs. So she is getting in the mindset of these things that I need to save for monthly. So she's saving for her known upcoming non-monthly expenses like car repairs. She knows it's going to happen. She's putting it into her budget. She's continuing to save for that. And then she took the course in September 2019, and then in November 2020, she's been able to do all of these things. So that's not even a year that she's been able to make huge progress. I mean, paying off a $10,000 loan in 5 months, like she's doing some work over there.
I think that what stands out building on that is momentum showed up. And that's the thing you're looking for in your money journey is sometimes, what do they say? A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And it's just about get moving. And eventually, some point in time, the law of momentum will take over. Sometimes it takes a year. For some of us, it takes 3 years. But eventually, it'll happen.
Yeah.
And I call that getting a lick in, that you get this blessed time period in your life where the income is good, the the debts stop, the new ones stop showing up, and for some reason, life doesn't happen as far as that costing you money. No appliances fail, the car doesn't break down, no one gets sick, and all of a sudden you can just make this huge progress in a short amount of time. So way to go, Faith. We thank you for all the encouragement and the encouraging words, and way to go. You're doing great work. I can't wait to hear you have paid off your house. It's going to happen fast.
Definitely going to
happen. If you're paying off $2,000 a month, you can pay off some house really fast.
Yep. Okay. Our question for today, we're talking about estate planning. So don't tune out. It's important. We all need to learn. So here we go. All right. Our question is, in a recent conversation with my parents, both are in their 70s, I learned that they do not have a will. I want to have a conversation with them, but it feels awkward bringing the subject up. Any suggestions?
I do have some suggestions. The first thing is embrace the awkward. I'm just going to say that. You embrace the awkward. You got to do that. But how do you do that? Well, number one, you have to educate yourself. Educate yourself. If you really want to get a will, for your parents need to get a will. You should get one yourself. That is the ideal way to start educating yourself, to go through it, to prepare your very own estate plan. And when you do that, you'll discover that there are 4 key parts in any estate plan.
Yep.
So, Megan, share with them what the first thing is in a good estate plan.
Yes. So the first one is a last will and testament or a living trust.
Right. So there are 2 different types of documents, a last will and testament or living trust. There's some advantages as you build more net worth to having a living trust. It allows assets to pass without being done through probate, which means not public. That matters. The last will it applies to the masses. And what it does is it directs the distribution of your possessions, the stuff you have, the valuable stuff that you have, the stuff that has no value as far as dollar value, but has sentimental value within your family. It allows you to be able to direct who gets, dad's shotgun, who gets mom's engagement ring and wedding ring. If that sort of stuff, those things matter.
Yeah.
And of course, those rings would probably have value.
Yeah.
The shotgun probably has value. But what about the old table that really has no value? Most people would just donate it.
But you ate all your meals
but it's
as
where
a
you ate all your meals as a kid, whatever it might be. That's the number one.
Yeah.
The second part of an estate plan is what?
Yeah. So just one question about that. So you're saying if you do the last will and testament, then you still have to go through probate.
Yes.
But if you have
It
the
will be
living
probated.
trust. Okay. Just wanted to clarify that. And then, so number 2 is advanced healthcare directive, a living will.
Yep, known as a living will. And this makes your healthcare wishes known. This is really important, especially as you age. It turns out 100% out of 100 people are going to die. And the chances are you're probably going to get sick along the way. And many people become incapacitated at some point in time, sometimes for periods of time.
Yeah.
Sometimes they develop, Alzheimer's. That's a big issue. And the Advanced Healthcare Directive allows you to make your healthcare wishes known. And that's really important. Like, for example, this is the so-called DNR, the do not resuscitate. At what point would you not want any outside, anybody working to keep you alive through non-normal means?
Do you want to live as a quote-unquote vegetable or not?
That's right.
Yeah.
If you're in a coma, do you want them to keep you alive if you would otherwise pass away? That sort of thing. It allows you to say, do you want to donate organs? That matters for a lot of people, organ donation. So the Advanced Healthcare Directive, also known as the living will.
Yep.
Okay. The third thing is what?
All right. Number 3 is durable power of attorney, and this is for your finances.
Yes. So a durable power of attorney, a POA, a POA, a power of attorney for your finances, really details the person, the human who can manage your finances should become incapacitated. So this really matters because it's saying if you're incapacitated, bills still come due, healthcare insurance premiums show up, lights need to be kept on in the house, taxes need to be paid, that sort of thing. So this allows the courts to recognize who can make those decisions on your behalf.
Yep. All right. The next one is durable power of attorney for healthcare.
Right. So there's a durable power of attorney for finances. There's another one for healthcare. This is different from that Advanced Healthcare Directive or living will. That makes your wishes known on being artificially life support, organ donation, that sort of thing. The durable power of attorney for healthcare says who is the human who can make those decisions,
Yep.
Execute those decisions for you.
Yeah, and they don't have to be the same person. So, like, we've had a situation in our family where my mom was the durable power of attorney for finances, and my aunt was the durable power of attorney for healthcare.
There you
go.
go.
It was kind of nice because it kind of spreads the weight out. It's not one person having to make all the decisions for everything. Maybe in your family that would be the case where it would be that person.
And it's important. You just said a very important word, the weight.
Yeah.
This is a weight.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody has Alzheimer's, I remember my great aunt developed Alzheimer's. And I'll never forget, my parents always went and visited her. I remember going there as a kid. It was very exciting. They had a TV, and I could watch the show T.J. Hooker.
Oh, gosh.
Woo! A cop show, a shoot 'em up. And it was just awesome. And we grew up without a TV in the house, and being able to watch that was awesome. And I remember my mother and father went to visit her. It was later on after I was out of the house, and the neighbor came racing over and saying, "Hey, who are you? Are you her niece? I've heard her talk about you." And they said, she's having issues, like she's forgetting where her house is. Like she forgot where her car was at Walmart and wandered around for hours, couldn't find it. Yeah. Couldn't even tell what type of car, didn't know her name. And so she ended up living for 7 years after that. And my mother had the weight of keeping the bills paid, eventually having to make the decision to sell the house because she just isn't coming back. And it is a weight. Yeah. And so it's important to think through who those people are that you're going to ask to carry that weight. It's not a guarantee, but they may have to carry it. And if so, it is going to be a burden. So you want to ask them, hey, would you be willing to do this if I become incapacitated?
Yeah. And you want to pick somebody, I mean, I'm just thinking through scenarios, but like you'd want to pick somebody who, you trust, but also like maybe if you're picking them for the finance side, they're good at finances.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be the one to handle it. Like they're going to be the one to pay your bills. They're going to be the one to maybe sell your house. They're going to be the one, to figure out how your money is allocated.
Because you're handing over
everything.
Those decisions to them. It's as if they are you.
Right.
Very important. That's a great point to make.
It like when you say it, it seems like duh, but it's also like maybe as you're thinking through people in your family, you're thinking, oh, I love this person so much. They would be great. But would they? Would they be great at that? Like something to really ask yourself. Maybe they would be great at one of the other things.
So we just educated you. That's good. Great point. We've educated you. The second thing that we should do is what?
Yeah. So number 2, and suggestions for this is share stories, maybe a famous person or like a person well known to your family who passed away without a will.
Right.
And the examples are unlimited here.
Yes, that's right. You can find them. Just Google them. You can find them. But this is how you're going to have the conversation. The question is, how do I have the conversation with my parents?
Yeah.
Sharing a story of a famous person or a person who's kind of famous in your family, they're well known, is huge, who passed away without a will. Like Jimi Hendrix. Did you know he died without a will? The Bob Marley, even though he knew he had cancer for 8 months before he died, did not have a written will. Unbelievable. Yeah. Pablo Picasso, the famous painter, no will. Prince,
I knew about Prince,
no written will. And Abraham Lincoln, even though he was an attorney, died without a written will. Can you believe that?
That's wild.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you can say, so the way you say it is you pivot from that. So that's the third point, is you pivot the focus to your loved one.
Yep.
So share some lines, Megan, on how they could maybe say this, some phrases. Maybe we'll include them in show notes.
We can do that. All right. Your pivot is, it got me thinking, do you have a written will? Right. So you're talking about these people.
Abraham Lincoln, did you know he died without a will?
Yeah.
Hey, it got me to thinking, Mom and Dad, do you have a written will?
Yeah.
Do you see it? The pivot. It's deflecting.
Yeah.
It makes it less attacking of,
do you
are
have a
70, you look like you're on the edge of death.
Oh,
why do you not have a written will? Right? Okay. Yeah. What's another line they could use?
All right. The next one is, I did a little research and found out that you can get a basic will done for just a few $100s.
Yeah. And so that removes the cost equation, and you can maybe add, in fact, I went ahead and put together a will for my family, and it got me to thinking. Okay, what's another line?
All right. Have you thought about who will manage your money if you are unable to?
Yeah. And, this is where the I'm unable to, I don't know what's happening, so I don't care.
Yeah.
But it turns out people care a lot. They really care about who they don't want their hands getting on to the money. So that's good. What's another line?
All right. Who would you like to make healthcare decisions for you if you are unable to do so yourself?
Yeah. And this, a lot of times, is a child, or if you don't have children, it's a niece or a nephew, somebody who's younger than you a lot of times. It could be a brother or sister, but it's always important in these documents, they usually have you name a second. So you can name that person that you absolutely prefer, like it is your sister, right? You want them. You know they know you better, and, hey, they can make decisions. But, if not, I want it to be this nephew, and you can name that, okay?
Yep. All right. And then the last one, what are your healthcare wishes? So DNR, life support, organ donation.
Yeah, like what are your healthcare wishes? Do you want to live on a machine for 20 years? Some people do because they believe they'll come out of the coma. But others are like, hey, look, if I'm a vegetable, let me go to Jesus. I'm going to leave. And you can make those wishes known. What's beautiful in that healthcare power of attorney, they have to execute your desires in the living will.
Yeah.
So those things, they can't change those for you. That's awesome.
Yep. Okay, so number 4, and how to do all this. Number 4 is direct them to an estate planning resource.
Right. So then that's the pivot. You've got them to buy in. So we're hoping that this questioner has been able to say, Abe Lincoln didn't have one. You love the arts. Picasso didn't have one. And, I know you love Purple Rain by Prince. I'm sure every 70-year-old loves that. And by the way, it got me to thinking, do you have a written will? I found out you could do one for just a few $100. In fact, we just did one. Do you see it? Then you direct them to an estate planning resource. If you've just done this, point them to that attorney. Point them to that resource. Now, it could be an estate planning attorney, and there's one in every town. But for basic estates, by basic estates, we mean net worth less than $1 million. You can, and I know that doesn't seem very basic, but it is considered basic when compared to a $25 million estate. For basic estates, use the estate planning kits found at LegalZoom.com. You can do that for about $130. And what I would say is look for the promo code.
Yeah.
Go to retailmenot.com, find the promo code. They always have promo codes, and they run deals from time to time on these resources. And they have, as I say, they do legal kits that are legal in your state. So they see what state and resident you're living in. Every state, this is state law that manages estates, and that matters a lot. Like in South Carolina, there's a unique law. If you don't have a written will, do you have a written will?
We do.
I'm so fired. If you don't have a written will and you're married, 50% of your estate goes to your spouse. 50% goes to your children. Did you know that? That's amazing.
Crazy, yeah.
So the written will allows you to say, no, it all goes to my spouse, kiddos. And then later on, they can figure out what goes to you.
Yeah.
Very important.
Okay, and then our last point is follow up.
Yes. Now, this isn't a popular topic. This estate planning thing is not popular. But it is wildly important to have the conversation, as it will save loads of heartache and money. Many times, estates that happen without a will end up losing somewhere around half to 2/3 of their value fought out in the courts. Is that amazing?
That's amazing.
And so I find this is a progressive conversation. Usually it's not oh yeah, you're right. Way to go, beloved child. I'm so glad you brought this up. We're going to do that right now. Can we go do that right now?
Yeah.
It's a progressive conversation. And I would just set a goal saying, hey, over the course of 6 months to the next year, that you would be able to put together a will. And that will would be known where it is. You don't have to know what's on the will. Let them know you don't really care what's in the written will. I mean, you do care, but let them know that that's not your motivation for it. Their motivation is that it's really clear that really the last act of stewardship, which is preparing an estate plan, is something that honors your heirs as you depart this earth.
Yep.
Is that an interesting? It's a crazy topic, isn't it?
It is a crazy topic.
But having it, so important.
Yes. Okay, so our quote for today is from you. And do you want to read it or do you want me to read it?
I'll read it.
Okay.
Because it's funny. I think it's funny. He hath no will because he could not will himself to do that activity which acknowledgeth his mortality. And that is me in the King James Version. I love it. Do you like that? He hath no will because he could not will himself to do that activity which acknowledgeth his mortality. In other words, he didn't have a will because he couldn't get the heart to recognize he's going to die. But hey, look.
You going to die?
We're going to die.
Yep. Okay, in our next episode, we're going to talk about how to teach your kids about giving. So we're continuing our series on how to teach your kids about what? So we talked about budgeting, we talked about investing, we talked about debt. So now we're going to talk about how to teach your kids about giving.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's our continued progressive series on how to teach your kids about a money topic. Hey, if you like today's episode, please help us get this podcast to other people who could benefit. You can do it quickly. Rate our podcast, leave a review. Those ratings and reviews, they help us making our podcast better for our listeners every single week. We share the podcast and the show notes on our Facebook page at I Was Broke Now I'm Not Facebook page, and I share it on my Joseph Single page. And all you have to do is share it with your little social media network or your large one. And that is the greatest vote of confidence you have in us as podcast hosts, is that you would share it with your family and friends and those that are closest to you. I would say today, as we exit this podcast, hey, make the call today. Make the call or schedule the conversation with your loved ones who you know don't have a will, and start it today. Start that process today. And if you don't have a written will, hey, go to LegalZoom.com, get started on your will today. You will not regret it. I know your heirs won't regret it. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit IWBNIN.com. We'll catch you next time.